Okay, very, very excited to have the necessity of rest panel. I have been amped all day about this conversation about rest. I don't think I've been this excited when thinking about sleeping or resting ever in my life. I am Janet Pope. I am the founder of The Good Lounge. The Good Lounge is a nonprofit that I started last year to really amplify resources, tools, and experts around well being. That's financial well being, mental well being, emotional well being, and physical well being. So, just always trying to bring virtual and physical in person sessions, events, conversations about topics that we need to bring to some key communities that I'm focused on: women, people of color, and the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm very, very excited to have whoever's out in the audience listening in to this panel today. And even more excited, if it was just the conversation with the three of us, I'd be this amped because I have two of my favorite people on this topic with us today. So I don't read things a lot, but I'm going to read your bios just to really make sure the audience knows who we're talking to. So we have Khaliah Guillory, who is the creative mind behind Nap Bar, a certified sleep expert, and a previous C-level executive. She knows a thing or two about handling stress and being sleep deprived. I can certainly relate to that. Nap Bar is the first white glove artificial intelligence wellness experience in the world, and it offers communities and companies on site and in suite rest sanctuaries to help reduce sleep deprivation and increase productivity. Nap Bar's mission is to turn sustainable rest into sustainable productivity. And then maybe my favorite thing about Khaliah is the fact that Houston's Mayor Sylvester Turner declared October 29th. October is the best month of the year, by the way. Khaliah
Scorpio.
Guillory Day. So shout out for that day. Shout out for October babies. My birthday is on the 28th, and so I'm just as excited as the rest of Houston about having a day named after you. Now we'll move over to Dr. Shaquinta Richardson, who is a life coach that works with Black women to manage the priorities in their lives to make more space for their self-care, peace, and joy. Her work as a coach centers around intergenerational influences of labor and care practices and aims to help us reimagine our expressions of success. Through the foundation of radical self care, she helps women create full dynamic lives that are rooted in alignment, harmony, and unshakable belief in self. My favorite thing about Dr. Shaquinta, she is a native of South Carolina. Let's go, SC. And a proud HBCU alum. She received a doctorate in psychology. Sorry, not psychology. Help me out, Doc.
Human development and family science with an
Perfect.
emphasis in marriage and family therapy.
Thank you. And she lives in Houston with her wonderful wife and two dogs who like to join the panel sometimes. So maybe we'll get
real loud. They have very loud voices.
Absolutely. All right. Very, very happy to be here with the two of you. Is there anything that I missed from your bios that you want to add to the context of this conversation for the audience today?
Nothing that won't come up in the convo.
That part.
All right. Okay. So let's dive in. So we'll start with you. KG. Let's just start with you. The first time we met and we talked, I was wearing my corporate hat and we were having a conversation about how to sponsor naps in different ways for employees at my place of business. And I'll be honest, in 2019, I wasn't really feeling the conversation. I was like, naps? We're talking about naps? Like, where are we really going with this? I wasn't sure about it. Some people in the audience may be thinking, a conversation on rest, a conversation about naps. What are we really talking about? So I want to ask, what exactly is a certified sleep expert, and why are you so passionate about naps and sustainable rest for sustainable productivity?
Man, we got to unpack that just a little bit, right? Because 2019, 2018, November 2018, I literally just retired as a VP in a Fortune 100 company, right, in banking. And just to really make this clear in a visualization, I am a Black woman who happens to identify as lesbian, and for me to have that type of role in a male-dominated pale stale male, right, and I mean, that was a thing. And so for me, I understand where you're coming from when you say, like, this was kind of a weird conversation, because let's just be clear, like, you grind, like, you have to do what you have to do to get to a certain rung on the ladder. And the story of Nap Bar really truly began because I've been an avid napper my entire life. Now, the thing about it is, I was a kid in kindergarten when the teacher said, go and grab your red and blue mat. She didn't have to fight with me, y'all. Like, I was out. I knew I went to my spot. That was it. So I continued to nap through high school. I played D1 ball. And that's where I really honed in the art of a power nap. And I just continued on throughout corporate America. And one day I woke up and I realized that I was sleep deprived and I didn't even know it. And the piece of that is that because I had been conditioned that, oh, you got this great job, you got these great benefits. I was working 85 plus hours a week. I was traveling 75% of the time. I would fly out Monday morning, San Francisco, and then Wednesday fly clear across the country to New York for a meeting and come back home Thursday night. And I wouldn't get home till Friday morning, the wee hours. And then I realized I woke up one day that I was at this intersection where my satisfaction no longer met my contribution. And I realized that I was beyond sleep deprived, and that's how I got into that point. So it wasn't about it was for me at one point I was climbing the next rung on the ladder, and then I never felt fulfilled because I was always tired and I didn't know it. And it wasn't until I drug the said ladder and leaned it against a building that had my name on it so that I can display my company's ethos, so I can really truly show corporations and professionals, stay-at-home parents, and travelers the beauty of restorative rest, right? And it's not necessarily sleep. Sleep is a big part of that equation, but that kind of leads me into a certified sleep expert. A certified sleep expert basically is just someone who has a conversation with you about your sleep hygiene. And from there, we identify patterns to talk about how can you get this restorative sleep? It's not fleeting. It can happen for you too. And giving yourself permission to try something different and knowing that it's not going to happen overnight. So that's what the certified sleep expert does. I'm absolutely passionate about this work because I come from the understanding and realization that my ancestors were told 400 plus years ago when they could rest. And we now are living in this braggadocious culture where we're team no sleep and hustle till you fall and I'll grind, grind, grind. But we have now the keys and access to tools and resources that we can nap and rest on demand. We don't need someone to tell us when. We can choose when we can do that. So for me, a part of one of my whys is how can we reverse engineer our relationship and approach to rest and sleep? Rest is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Rest is my superpower. People always ask me like, KG, how are you always so hype and y'all have this energy? Because I take my rest, I take my naps, I do all this, and I know we'll unpack that a little further down the road or down the conversation. But yeah, man, that's why I left my cushy job. I started Nap Bar, and that's it, man. And it's crazy because I was ahead of my time in 2019, but now, unfortunately, COVID happened. And I say that's bittersweet because wellness is at the forefront of everyone's mind now. It wasn't in 2019. And it's unfortunate because people lost their lives. But now, because we all went through a global pandemic, we are now prioritizing our rest. And we're having these type of conversations, the necessity of rest. And people are dialing in because they're engaged to get like, how do I achieve this, right? It's not something that's like out of mind, like I will never be able to achieve this. Like you can, it's literally at your fingertips. So thank you, man. Thank you, Pope, for putting this on and having this and creating a good lounge for us to be edutained.
Yeah, that's right. Edutainment, educated and entertained at the same time. And I mean, you talk about full circle moments. The fact that I sort of, when you said, let's talk about naps for corporate America, and I kind of looked a little like, I don't know about this, for me to come back around and say, hey, we need to have a conversation about naps. I never saw that coming, and really glad, like you said, in the last couple of years, the way that we approach and think about self-care has definitely changed. So we'll dive into a little bit more about that in a minute. Dr. Shaquinta, my fellow South Carolinian, one of our very first few conversations, we had a really interesting discussion about intergenerational influences around self-care specifically. So can you talk a little bit more about what you focus on as a life coach, and what's the historic context around why we're in a cycle of burnout?
So with coaching, I focus a lot on like the narratives around rest and self-care and labor and productivity, and ways in which we have adopted just like generational narratives that were adaptive for like our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors, the things that they did to survive, in ways that we have just accepted that's the way that they have to be for us, when that may not be the case. I often acknowledge that, there are still aspects, like racism is still real, patriarchy is still real. All these things are still very real, but they don't look the same ways that they have looked in the past, and we still operate as though they do. And so it's a lot of unraveling the messaging and the narratives about what we can't do, and identifying ways that we can incorporate rest, ways that we can develop self-care practices that are unique to us, that are specific to us, who we are as individuals, and making them sustainable. And it comes with a lot of, like I said, narratives, mindsets, but really practicing and getting our minds and our bodies comfortable with the idea of taking a break, of meeting our own needs, of caring for ourselves, because it's so ingrained in us. It feels scary. It feels unsafe to pause and to rest. So it's getting ourselves comfortable with that and pushing through the discomfort of that, while also shifting the beliefs, the stories, the mindsets, all those things that contribute to maintaining like the status quo of hustle culture and grinding and all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, you talked a little bit about hustle culture already. You both have mentioned that. I've actually had interesting conversations just amongst my own friend group in planning this conversation. And the flyer had like a little mention around hustle culture. And I got into just interesting conversations about what hustle culture actually means. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it rooted in systems that aren't really pro women or pro people of color? Want to understand a little bit more about what hustle culture means to you. Before I dive in and let you answer that, I will give some context. So the Urban Dictionary definition defines hustle as striving towards a goal, and hustle culture as the glorification of working very long hours in the hope of reaching one's professional goals. So what does it mean to you?
I'll jump out. So did you want Doc to go? Doc, I think it's you.
Okay, I'll go first. I didn't know if you want to go first since I just went. So for me, it's like one, identifying like what are we talking about when we talk about hustle culture? Like hustle, let me back up. One thing that we don't do very well as just humans is nuance, gray, like complexity in how we define things and how we like enact them in our lives. Is hustle itself a bad thing? No. Like it's okay to have some hustle about yourself, but it's this extreme like hustle culture and grind culture of you got to go, you got to get it, sleep when you dead. All of that becomes problematic, and it's not sustainable. It's not healthy. And it's also a fallacy. Like it's not real. Like the hardest working people that I know are not the richest. The hardest working people I know are not the ones who are the most successful. And so we've been sold this belief that if we just work hard and, grind and whatever, then, all of our goals and all of our dreams will come true. And it's not true. Is it true for some people? Absolutely. Does it work for some people? Absolutely. But this idea that A plus B equals C is what it is. It's not real. So yeah, we've developed this idea that grinding and hustling creates this particular outcome, um, ignoring our humanity, ignoring that these beliefs and this idea is rooted in capitalism, is rooted in racism, is rooted in slavery. Like all these things that work together to create this idea of the harder you work, the more successful you will be. So yeah, that's that's my thought on that.
I think that coming from an entrepreneur, even if I thought about it from a corporate standpoint and then entrepreneurship, I'm working just as many or if not more hours now, because the reality of it is that as an entrepreneur, I'm a hunter now, right? If I for lack of a better word, if I don't go out there and hunt and kill, I'm not eating tonight. So, the reality of it is I don't have the luxury anymore to call off sick. I don't have the luxury in the conditioned norms that society has manufactured for us. I still give myself permission though to choose. If I wake up one morning and say, you know what, KG, you ain't feeling it, girl, like you tired, I will call my business manager and say, clear the calendar. I need a day of rest. And my day of rest looks like a shark day, meaning that I don't leave the bedroom. Only time I get permission to do so is to go to the kitchen or the bathroom, and I pretend that sharks are swarming my bed. And if I leave, I'm gonna get bit. Like, that's just a funny thing that I do now. People know now, like, yo, you on a shark day? Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. So they already know because I'm self-caring in my way. And, for me, it's because I had to reverse engineer that, right? Like, working in corporate America, I never called out because I came from a home that was conditioned that way. My mother, may she rest in peace and power, she called off five times her total career in 33 years. I saw her and witnessed her go to work with the flu, go to work like with a bad bum knee. Like I saw that. And so initially I thought like, that's what I'm supposed to do, until I decided and made the decision to reverse engineer that mindset. And, I think from a hustle standpoint, if I could get nerdy here for a second, whenever people are bragging about, I haven't slept in 2 days, ask them, what did you eat for breakfast this morning? What did you work on yesterday night? Like, ask them just questions they should know. 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, they won't know, because what happens when you lay down and you sleep, your body is removing all the toxins from your body and is downloading the memories of your day. So if you are denying your body these essential things that happen every single night, imagine what that's going to look like for you. I nap every single day not because I know, and it's been proven, scientifically proven, according to studies by the Harvard Business Review, that the lifespan for your longevity will expand to 5 years. I don't nap every day because I want to live longer. I nap every day because I want the quality of my life to be beyond I could even imagine. I don't want to have diabetes because we know that runs deep in our culture. I don't want high blood pressure. We know that runs deep in our culture. So for me, I'm doing things so not just so I can have a long life, but I can have a healthy life. I want to still be 90 riding around and getting it, And so that for me is how you still can hustle. But I'm still gonna get my rest and get the bag. Like both things can be in the same sentence. They can be aligned.
Yeah, you brought up some really good points, and I know that you're a little bit of a nerd on rest, so maybe you can help me out with some things that I know I've noticed and had conversations with others. So you mentioned some of the studies. I think there was a study out there where they found that not getting enough sleep or being sleep deprived by a certain number of hours was the equivalent from a cognitive function perspective as being drunk. So
listen, 300 fatalities, I want to say it was last year, it's called drowsy driving. So if you are driving and you're tired and sleep deprived, it's equivalent to you driving under the influence of a substance or anything else. So do you want to be in that same category with people who are choosing to get behind the wheel when they shouldn't? And not only that, if you want to take a bigger picture, especially for my folks who are joining in from LinkedIn and corporate America, the U.S. economic loss was 411 billion. I'm saying billion with the capital B. That was the economic loss due to employees calling off from work. So imagine you have this workforce of folks who are calling off because they're not sick, because they are mentally exhausted. And that costs the US economy $411 billion. So imagine if you allow them to take a rest at work. Imagine if you created and curated a room that's an unused conference room that you're using as a storage closet right now, and you had a place for them to rest. And it's not necessarily take a nap, but just to unplug from the rest of the world for 20, 30 minutes. Like that has been proven time over time that is a huge benefit for just for their cognitive function. It's for their creativity. Now it's boost your creativity by up to 40%. 40%. When I'm exhausted and I know there's something I should be figuring out in a heartbeat, I was just like, you know what, KG, go lay down. Go lay down. I will come back and it's like, boom. Okay, all right, I'm back. I can do this. And so and when you think about weight loss, some of us are still struggling with the COVID-5 or COVID-10. When you take and when you receive adequate and restorative sleep and consistent napping, it has been proven to aid in weight loss. So, I mean, there's so many reasons why, scientifically proven reasons why we should make sleep and rest a priority, but yet we still struggle with it. And I get it, because I still have moments with it, right? I'm human as well. And I know we'll get into that later when we're talking about parents and moms and single parents. Like, we still could figure out how to carve out a piece of time for ourselves.
Yeah, I'm so glad you have the science to prove something that I see a few folks from Clemson on. One of the things we learned fairly early on, I remember being freshmen in trying to do programming assignments, and the code wouldn't compile. There was nothing we could do to get the code to compile. And I would take a nap, and somehow magically I knew the answer. And so I didn't know what that was. I just knew it was time to go to sleep, and I started figuring that out. But now they have the science to prove, corporate America, to your point, should have places where people can rest, relax, take a nap, and the creativity will heighten, the boost will heighten. So all good that now we have science to prove some things that we were probably figuring out in our own actions and behavior.
Absolutely.
So Dr.
Shaquinta, and NASA. Another stat we have is NASA. Oh, can I just throw this one out there?
Please.
NASA has a stat. This is the one that blew me away. It said that they did a study on sleepy military pilots and astronauts, and they found that a 26-minute nap improved their productivity by up to 34% and their alertness by 54%. So for me, it's like, if it's good for NASA, it's good for me.
Absolutely.
So we have naps.
Love it. So Dr. Shaquinta, we'll start with you on this one. One thing that you want people to know or think about as they explore their own relationship with rest and productivity.
So simply put, that they are not mutually exclusive. One of the biggest things I hear people say is like, I can't rest. I got to be productive. But when you really dig into it, the real issue that comes up is people are afraid of being lazy. People are afraid of wasting time. People are afraid of what it means if they take a break, not of actually being productive. Because if you break it all down, we waste a lot of time doing busy stuff to feel like we're doing something. And so it's more so about avoiding this negative view of ourselves, or this thing that makes us a bad person or a failure or whatever words and language put on it, versus this thing that we're making it mean in our minds, what people have told us that it means. And I mean, like you said, like, rest actually helps you to be more productive. Like, it actually boosts your creativity. It boosts your ability to think and to problem solve. And so, like, rest and productivity go together. They should be married. They should have a relationship, a positive relationship with one another. So I do encourage people all the time to really think about, like, what does it mean to rest, and what do you think is going to happen if you do, and really unpacking that. Because you're not worried about being productive. You think you are, but you're more productive when you do these other things.
Sounds like true words from a life coach, because I know family members, I know friends. I feel like I literally know people that do not know how to rest. They do not know how to stop. They feel like, to your point, like they're not being productive if they stop. And it's interesting. It feels like, I don't know, whenever we talk to therapists or life coaches, I feel like everything comes back to family of origin. But maybe that's just me that's feeling that way or thinking that everything. No. Okay. So
not at all. Not at all. It is often, well, anytime like people will go back and think about, their childhood as, when they're teenagers, children, whatever. It's like, oh, you sitting down, you need to go do this. Oh, you got time to sit down, you can go do this. And again, it's our parents. They got that from their parents. They got that from their parents. Like we can trace this thing all the way back. You don't get to rest. That is not a privilege that you get. And we have accepted that as fact, as reality, rather than a conditioning based on racism and capitalism. It goes back to that. And so, yeah, I mean, it is very much encouraged and forced by our families of origin. And I always tell people, like, it doesn't have to be from a negative place of, well, my mama did this and it was, my family's fault. No, this is the conditioning that we've all been socialized within, but we can also question it, challenge it, and do something different.
KG, what do you want to, same question. One thing you want people to know as they explore their relationship with rest and productivity?
Is give yourself grace and give yourself permission to just go out there and explore what it looks like, right? Because a lot of people, I've heard some other folks in the space say, yeah, just go and take a nap or just go and get 7 to 8 hours of sleep that night. But that's not as easy as it sounds, right? These are learned behaviors. Like there's a thing called bedtime rituals. There's a thing called morning rituals. There's a thing to help you that will aid you in learning. It's just like riding a bike. You didn't just all of a sudden one day you got out there and you were riding the bike without your training wheels on. Like, no, there's levels to this, right? Especially if you're coming from a place where you've struggled with sleep your entire life, right? And so, I think the one thing I could just express to people is get out there, reach out to folks, get the tools, do the research. Reach out to Doc, reach out to me, reach out to somebody, take the first step to do something, like commit to doing something differently tonight. I think we're going to share some tips. Just commit. It's early enough. Just take one tip and do that one thing tonight and then repeat it. And then the next week, maybe try 2 tips. And then the week after that, next month, maybe in the beginning of the year, try 3 tips. Like go slow with this, you know what I'm saying? Just bite off, they say you don't eat an elephant in one sitting, you bite off a piece, a bite, and then you chew from there. So just take a bite at a time.
That's a good transition actually to the next question. So let's stay with you on that one. What are tips that you would give the audience to better manage their ability to have sustainable rest?
The first thing I would say is look at your environment, right? So if most people are still working from home, and if you're still working out of your bedroom, bro, sis, come on out the bedroom, find you an area inside the house or go back into the office or a co-working station, because what you don't realize is that when we immediately went from working in the office to the bedroom, your brain took a transition. It's like, oh, we're in the bedroom all the time now. So we're eating in the bedroom. It's a daycare. It's school now. I mean, it's all these things in one place. And the one thing that the brain is supposed to recognize when you're in the bedroom is that this is for intimacy and sleep. That's it, nothing else. And so if you are working from the bedroom, your brain is stimulated and it might think, oh, it's daytime. There's a thing called the circadian rhythm. It's our master clock. And so when it's light outside, the brain knows you're supposed to be up. And when the sun goes down, it automatically starts to shift and think, oh, let's start to release some melatonin so we can relax and get chill with it. So if you're tricking your brain by working in your bedroom all the time, I would say tomorrow morning, move back to the kitchen counter or the kitchen table, or move to a coworker, move somewhere else outside of your bedroom or a second bedroom, not your master. Something else you could consider is green plants. The live green plants, they clean the air. They help us aid. Snake plants are preferably my favorite. I have one right on my nightstand. They help you clean it. They help you sleep at night. Something else that you could do, especially for couples, in my consulting business for sleep, we practice the to-bed method. I personally came up with this method because I realized that couples have a lot. Well, most people don't know this, that couples, the number one reason for divorce isn't necessarily financial reasons. It's snoring. Somebody snores. Now they're sleeping in separate bedrooms and they no longer have a sense of connection. That's the number one reason why couples aren't staying married. So I came up with this thing called the to-bed method. It's the T stands for tantric eye gazing. Ain't nothing more sexy than just looking into your person's eyes. I'm sorry, like that gets you ready for some bed. And then the second one, the O, is just open your mind and heart to meditation. Like really journal through in your mind, like a visual journal, like a visual journal and visualization. You know, I'm grateful for these things that happened today, and tomorrow this is what I expect to happen, because I'm gonna manifest what that looks like. The B is for a bath. Take a bath together. See, most people don't realize this, but whenever you take a bath at night, outside of my shift workers, this is for people who are on regular schedules, you take a bath at night, that warm water, it takes your core temperature up. It increases the temperature in your body. And so whenever you get out the tub, you immediately start to cool down. And that is another signal to your brain. It's like, oh, it's dark outside. We just had a temperature drop. It's time for bed. So while you're at it, light some candles, have some nice little some nice little music playing in the background, drop the air, because that's also an intentional way for you to be able to get some really good sleep. And I'm not talking drop it to 73. I'm talking like 65, 66, 69 is really the optimum temp for you to get some really good sleep. Where am I? B. So the E, engage in meaningful conversation. D, do bedtime yoga. Like a lot of people miss this step. It's like a hack. Like literally get into bed, Google YouTube, go to YouTube and just type in bedtime yoga. You can do a 5-10 minute yoga thing in the middle of your bed. Stretching is relaxing techniques that will release additional melatonin in your body. And then the last one is, man, dance to your favorite song. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm like excited and I'm happy. And then when I go to bed happy, I usually wake up happy as well. So, you know, those are a few tips. If we have more time, I would love to share more, because I could talk about tips all day long.
Yeah, I mean, you gave some really great examples, and honestly, some of those I think I know intellectually. Like, I don't have a television in my bedroom because I know that, you know, that is going to distract from rest. But now we all have phones all the time, and so I don't have the TV, but I'm looking at the phone. So I think I need to figure out a daily practice to put the phone away sooner. I have the warm tones on and all that good stuff, but I need to just not bring it to bed.
Well, you know, so it's funny you say that, because I stopped sleeping on my phone in 2017. Like it's charging in the kitchen or in the bathroom, and it changed my sleep. Like it was a complete 360, 180. I mean, whichever way you want to look at it, right? I mean, it was a complete change in my sleep. And it's because the last thing I did before I went to bed, I no longer was scrolling, looking at emails or looking at my calendar and then getting anxious about what I have to do the very next day. I'm not thinking about that going into my sleep. I'm thinking of happy thoughts, right? I'm dancing. I'm thinking of the fun I just had. And same thing with waking up in the morning. I'm not checking my email and checking my calendar to figure out, oh God, I got to have a meeting with so-and-so. Like the first 45 minutes of the day belongs to me. I am not looking or checking for anything. I'm in the bed. It's just me. I'm listening to music. I'm journaling. I'm visualizing. And that's it, because I've worked up from 5 minutes to 45, and 45 minutes is my sweet spot. For some, try 5 minutes tomorrow morning. Try that on for size and see what it looks like.
Yeah, that's good. And it looks like we have some other team 68 degrees in the comment section. So I also like to sleep with 68 degrees. And I know Dr. Shaquinta via Kim, it keeps the house at polar temperatures. So we're all in good company here.
It's necessary.
Let me turn it over to you, Dr. Shaquinta. So same question. Any tips that you have to better manage the ability to have sustainable rest, and how to move from just the intellectual concept to making it part of a daily practice?
Yeah, I mean, KJ already gave like all the great ones. Like I mean, not all, but like those are some great ones. Getting outside. So I have a little acronym too. How to keep it simple, sis. And simple stands for sleep. Starting with your sleep. Intentional breaks throughout the day. So it can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. Mindset work, so doing your journaling, processing your thoughts, getting the stuff out of your brain, prioritizing the things that need to be prioritized, incorporating some kind of leisure into the day. So that can be anything. It could be a walk, it could be listening to some music, it could be a dance party, it could be, anything that feels good, and expressing your needs to those around you, like whatever your needs are, boundaries, whatever those things are. because like self-care, rest, these things look different for everybody. I would say rest is not, like I said, I'll not always sleep. Sometimes it's like, okay, your brain needs a break, so let's get into your body. Okay, your body needs a break, so let's do something to exercise your brain. So really understanding the different parts of yourself, but that takes work. Like that takes some time. So let me back it up. Really starting small, like that is the biggest. I think the biggest and best piece of advice is to start small. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. I need my 2 hours in the morning. But I worked my way up to that. But it can be 5 minutes. It can be 10 minutes. Taking rest also is like another thing that's important with it is allowing yourself not to feel guilty about it. I know a lot of women will take the time, but spend the time feeling guilty, which doesn't feel very restful. And so it's really giving yourself the permission and the grace and talking yourself through that this is okay. This is okay to do. It's okay for me to have this time. It's okay for me to have this space, and that everything and everybody will be okay when you're done. Okay. It's a practice. It's getting your nervous system to feel comfortable and safe taking this time too. So it is the physical parts of it, but it is also like there are mental, emotional parts that are attached to it. So yeah.
That's perfect. So let me just pause and ask if the listening audience has any questions that they want to put in the chat. We can see the ones on YouTube. I also have just asked in the LinkedIn if anybody has any questions. I have another question for you, but I want to get any questions from the audience as those may come in. So as those are coming in, another question I have for you both, and maybe we'll start with Dr. Shaquinta this time. One resource that you'd recommend the audience to read, watch, or listen to because it informed your perspective on this topic.
Okay, this one. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why this one was hard for me. I'm gonna give the resource. Just one. Right. I'm gonna go with Therapy for Black Girls only because it covers such a wide range of topics related to rest and self-care and all these different things. But of course, Nap Ministry, Rest is Resistance. Okay, that's two, but that's an Instagram page versus, I guess. But the reason why this was hard to think about, like what really informed, I kind of, Facebook has memories. You go back and look at your memories. I have literally been practicing this. 2013 is the first time I remember a Facebook post about self-care as a concept. And so it actually sparked for me from a personal experience of like stuff falling apart in my life. After like grinding and hustling and all those things. And it was a moment of, this is not going to work. I can't do this anymore. If I'm going to continue on this particular path, I'm going to do it as a whole person. I'm not going to let this continue to take things from me. So I do believe that sometimes we have to come to a point where it's like, this ain't working anymore. And we have to get to that, I don't want to call it a breaking point, but we just have to get to that point of like, enough is enough. And then the resources kind of come. So Nap Ministry, Rest is Resistance. That's a book written by the creator of the Nap Ministry. And then Therapy for Black Girls.
And that's a book?
Rest is Resistance is the book.
Okay.
Nap Ministry is the Instagram page.
And Therapy for Black Girls is a book?
Podcast.
Is a podcast. Got it. I missed that part. Yeah. Great. Those are great resources.
Yeah, that was hard.
I get it.
I'm like, you don't think we can't do 3, Pope? Like
you can do 3. It's our first panel. You can do 3. Go for it.
Okay. They say you go ahead, Doc. Doc, you got one more you want to slide in there?
Alex L. It's another one.
Okay. We on the same page. So I'm kicking it off with 4 agreements. Miguel Ruiz. And the reason why is because for me, what stood out for me, the biggest agreement was be impeccable with your word. And so if I'm going to be impeccable with my word, the biggest person that I need to be impeccable with is me, is self. So if I'm going to commit to really prioritizing rest and sleep and self-care like never before, then I have to be impeccable with my word to me, right? I got to put my oxygen mask on first. So that's my joint. The second one is kind of in the same lane, is that the alchemist, like Paulo, like it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier from like a therapeutic sense. Like it helps you uncover your trauma and relationship with rest and everything else in your life, and really figure out what your guiding star is. Like what's my purpose? What's my divine purpose? And I found that once I realized what that divine purpose was, then I was able to commit to the other things to help me fulfill this divine purpose. See, I can't fulfill my divine purpose with this ladder leaning against a building that has my name on it when I am exhausted. It just doesn't work that way. So that's the second one. The third one is Why We Sleep. It is Matthew Walker. He is a neuroscientist. He's a bad boy in the sleep space. He did a TED talk. He's done a couple of TED talks. I would definitely pop in there, check that out. I pay all the respect to him. I mean, he's been in this space for decades now. And so, I sit at his feet. One of my mottos is, why duplicate mediocrity when you can borrow genius? So I borrow Matthew Walker's genius on a regular. Because he's a trailblazer in the space, and I'm just ready. I'm ready for him to pass the baton to me so I can keep it going.
I mean, how do you follow that? Those are. I feel like I need to just throw out an Eckhart Tolle reference just to do it at this point, based on the way this conversation has gone. But there's a question for you, KG, here in the chat. It is, how do you get old school Fortune 500 corporate businesses to buy into creating nap spaces?
It starts at the top, right? So let me get nerdy again. So by year 2025, which is literally 2 years from now, the entire executive level, C-level strength, bench strength is going to be millennials. And what we know about millennials is that they value spirituality, rest, self-care, all those things above work and above even friendships. This is like scientific. This is a study that was done. It was published, I believe it was in Forbes. Don't hold me to it, but if you Google it, you will find it. And so if we are looking really to move this the world, right, into a place where we want to be more productive, that's how we do it. Sharing that study, or you can call me. I can give you some of the data. And if you want me to get on a call with your manager, I can do that too. But that $411 billion U.S. economic loss, I have an actual equation that I can break down that is specific to your company to show you how much money your company is losing annually. We annualize the number, and it's usually $1 million number just based on loss of productivity because people are tired. They're scrolling on their phones at work when they should be submitting a report. There's so much stuff that's being done. I think the differentiator for me is that I lived it. Like I was in corporate America, so I know what that looks like. And so, that coupled with the millennials, we know this information is coming down. Also with what's happening right now in the world with the great resignation and all these things that are happening, people have had enough. They're not operating in the same lane as I did when I was coming up. That, I'm okay with working 85 plus hours because that's what I have to do. And I was like, no, I'm not. You're getting 40 out of me and that's it. I'm not checking my email after 5 p.m. and I'm definitely not checking it on the weekend. Not doing it. But I guarantee you, if you give them a curated place for rest during the week, and they could pop in and unplug, and there's some meditation music, and they might be able to pop in and do like a YouTube or a virtual call with Doc here about life coaching and what this looks like with rest. It was a whole collaboration I just manifested. And, I guarantee you they'll have a higher propensity to want to do a little bit extra because they're like, oh man, my company, their corporate social responsibilities report actually is living and breathing of what they said they are doing. Like, it's not just a report or a checkbox. They actually are doing it. So, girl, call me, bro, call me. Let's make something happen.
Yeah. And I mean, we started this conversation and I told you, like, we met and I had a lot of respect for you even before we started having a conversation about naps, but I still was sort of like, I don't know about these naps. And in a position now, when I think about all the conversations we've had about well-being, even in companies really changing the conversation about sick days and leveraging sick days for mental and emotional health, not just like I'm physically so ill I can't walk into a building, which I think is what we typically were using sick days for in the past. Now I think people are clearer that they can, in many companies, I'm not going to say all companies, I can't speak for everybody's situation, but many companies I think have gotten a lot more reflective to enable people to use sick days for more than just physical sickness. And so I think we're in the best time for corporate America to really be more open to that conversation, and more to your point around research around retention, around ways that they can enhance the benefits conversation, around anything that helps showcase them as an employer of choice. I know companies are looking for multiple ways to differentiate themselves on those avenues. So all the collaborations you manifested, I'm sure can happen. And hopefully folks will reach out. We've been sharing the Instagram handles and things for people to connect with you directly as well. One other question based on something that we talked about when we were preparing for this, it's just the concept that rest is more than sleeping. And I've seen some things in the chat where people were kind of sharing other ways that they rest. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? Maybe we'll start with you, Dr. Shaquinta, on that one.
Yeah. So yeah, people often equate rest with sleep, but it could be sitting down, doing something that doesn't require a lot of mental energy, a lot of like problem solving energy, a lot of like frontal lobe work. It could be that your body's tired, and so it literally needs to sit down. It could be that your emotions are high or you're anxious, and so you need to breathe and take a moment to rest in that way. Yeah, I mean, it could be just a break from whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is that you are currently doing that is giving you your body or your mind signals to say, okay, too much, I'm overwhelmed, I'm frustrated, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I'm struggling to focus, whatever signals you're getting, taking a break from that thing and doing something else.
That's good. KG?
I think the first thing is, like, most people are operated and ran by their calendars, right? So if you're not intentional about scheduling 5-10 minutes just to unplug and recharge, it probably won't happen. So just making sure that might be the one takeaway you get from this. Like, pick up your phone right now and just put in your calendar that you're going to rest. You're going to take 5-10 minutes from your lunch break and then just rest. If that's pop into a car, unused conference room, take a walk around a corner. There's something that you can do. I also think that, whenever I'm just thinking about people on both sides of the spectrum, right? I told you I had just retired from corporate, and then boom, the pandemic hit. I was only open for 5 months, and I had made a vow that I was not going back to corporate. So things got really interesting for me, especially if we're going to be in transparency. Financially, that was kind of weird, right? Like I had a runway. I came from banking, so I already knew what I was up against, but I didn't plan for a pandemic, right? So, I had committed in 2020, I made a commitment to myself that in order for me to stay balanced, my rest outside of sleeping would look like I would travel once a month. I would go somewhere new once a month. And so financially speaking, that didn't work anymore. And so what I would do is sit on my couch and make a date with myself during the day for 30 minutes. And I would go to YouTube and pop in 360 travel video, and they will take me to Italy. I would do a site tour in Jamaica. I mean, I went everywhere. And then when things started to open back up, I was able to jump back on a plane again. So I think we have to recreate and reimagine what this looks like. It's beyond just, getting your nails done and getting your hair done. That's great. But really unplugging. I go on sabbatical every year. For the last 2 weeks of the year, I'm on sabbatical. I'm not on any platform. I am just chilling, thinking about and visualizing what I want the next year to look like. And I take sabbaticals throughout the year. I could be like, I need to unplug from social media, and I will unplug. So I think the biggest piece, and that's rest for me. So I think giving yourself permission to really explore what that would look like and create something that maybe is not being done right now. There's not a rule book to this. You get to decide and dictate what your rest looks like for you. And I think the biggest piece is don't share it with anybody, because we still come from this. I think Doc mentioned, people see resting and napping as lazy. So you might want to keep this to yourself, because one thing I realized early on is that when we're sharing our vision with folks who don't have the capacity to understand it, that's where, they hating, or they just don't have the capacity to understand. That's where you moving through. You got that download, they didn't. So keep it to yourself if you need to. Nap and rest on the low.
No, all really, really good tips. And as someone who works with teams and people are sort of across the board on maybe where they may be, to your point around the capacity of doing something, I definitely remember being a younger manager, and I ended up with someone on the team that was very transparent and open about sort of trying some different sleep schedules, and it was like incremental sleep. So I think it was like 6 hours and then working and then 6 hours and working. And we were in some setup where that was kind of allowed. And I thought it was odd. But I didn't outright say it's kind of lazy or weird. I just thought, well, that's a little different. Knowing what I know now, I probably just feel like, okay, yeah, but I think I definitely probably thought more about that as a young manager who wasn't really sure what to do with that. In judging, I'll use that word, this colleague's, trial with rest and sleep. I don't think I would judge it in that way now. So all that's very, very interesting. I think a lot of really, really good takeaways. I did want to have a note on just privilege, the concept or the thought around privilege. So I'm sitting here with my nice office. I have vacation days that I can take. What do we want to say? That there could be someone in the audience that's sort of like rolling their eyes. They're taking care of 2 children. They have to, hustle and make money to put food on the table. Like, what do we want to say around, the perspective that our, privilege may bring to this conversation? Anything we want to mention on that?
Yeah, so I love this because one of the things that is actually like a point of annoyance is even a strong word, but when I look at social media, for example, is how self-care and rest are presented. And it does have this like face of expensive trips and pampering and massages and all these things that cost money. And I will tell anybody that true rest, true like soul giving self-care, these things don't have to cost money at all, and they don't have to take lots and lots of time either. Anytime I think about this, I think of my sister. She works a job, she has the kids, she has to punch the clock, all those things. And I would say anybody, I don't care what your actually, I don't care, whatever your situation is, everybody has 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes. And if you don't believe you have 10 minutes, that is all fear. That is all conditioning. That is all within your mind of why you can't do that, and challenge that and really think about what that is. But everybody has 10 minutes, and that 10 minutes can make a huge difference. That can make a huge difference in somebody's day.
Absolutely. And we've had conversations in the past about, I guess this is starting to get into boundaries more than rest, but like people having fear around telling their manager, I need 10 minutes in the morning to do whatever, to meditate, to think, to gather my thoughts, to have my coffee, whatever is your thing that brings you preparedness for the day. And I think people are so afraid that someone's going to say, no, you can't do that we just never ask. And most of the time I found when I do ask for whatever that thing is, it's fine. And nobody cares. So I think it's, to your point, it's interesting to make sure that we're unpacking where some of that's coming from. We were talking about like family of origin. I was one of those kids. I never missed a day of school from K through 12. I got a plaque when I graduated from high school, which is crazy. It's crazy. But that imprinted something in me about showing up and getting it done and making sure I'm there, which for good or for bad or neutral, right? And I'm not labeling that, but it definitely plays a part in how I look at what it looks like or what it means to show up. So all this stuff is important and plays into how we walk out in our daily lives.
Yeah. And I want to add something really quick. I use this example a lot because it helps me even. I have a past client who was a trauma surgeon. Literally saving people's lives. Literally. And even they get 15 minutes before going into a surgery to gather themselves. So if a trauma surgeon could take 10 minutes, baby, so can I. Okay.
That's a great example. Okay, I don't see any other questions on LinkedIn on the comments. I do see a lot of love coming in. It looks like people are enjoying the session. I do have a couple plugs for the next couple of events that I want to share with people.
Can I pop in real quick? Paul, before you get to the plug? Because I know Barbara she had something here for Nap Space. I want to make sure I circle back on that for corporate. For people who, and then just tying into what we just talked about, like you got to make sure you find your time. One of the things I tell my clients is pull out when they say, "Oh, I don't have time, KG." I say, "Okay, well, pull out your phone and let me see your screen time report for this week." And then we quickly find 10 minutes. Just saying. All right, moving on. So Barbara says suggestions for people in corporate who don't have nap spaces provided by the employer. Sleep in the car, that's not really safe. I used to sleep in my car. I still do if I'm in a pinch. But, I would say is, I think it goes back to what Doc just said. It's like really sharing with your leadership team what you need. Hey, I'm taking my lunch, but inside my lunch break, I'm going to take 10 minutes in my office. Lights are going to be off, or I'm going to leave the building for 10 minutes. And I need to be unbothered during that time because this is my time. I think really being intentional about our space and our time and what we need. I think we're so scared that, I'm going to be that person. But I think that's behind us now. We have to really, we have to advocate for ourselves, and we can't expect for other people to do it for us. And so that would be my biggest piece to folks in corporate America. Just tell folks what you need, be vocal, use your throat chakra. It's there for a reason. You need it.
Yeah, and I did miss a question. Sorry about that. One more question here. I struggle with ADD, which adds another layer of complication to optimal productivity and optimal rest. Any advice or research for neurodivergent people?
That.
So I'm even wondering, like, what is optimal productivity? What is optimal rest? Like, even what does that mean? So again, every person is different. Every person is ADD, ADHD looks different. The one thing that I will say is starting to get curious and aware of like what your flows are, what your patterns are, what it looks like, what are like activities, things, situations that make it harder for you to do whatever it is you're trying to do, and what are ones that environment, situations, the mixture of the things that that you actually do execute. What does that look like? Because a lot of times we find that people are trying to force themselves to do things that are outside of their energy flow, outside of their personality, outside of just them, and trying to force themselves into the square peg into a round hole. And so just getting curious about your own flows, your own patterns, your own needs. You will be much more productive when you get in touch with those needs and understanding what they are and meet them, so that when your brain is telling you something is too hard or that something's too much, you are filled up in a way that you don't feel like this other thing is lacking, and so I can't meet this thing that's in front of me. Yeah, I think that's a complex question, but those are some of the things that come off the top of my head.
That's good. Good tips. Thank you both so much. So everybody, please mark your calendar. December 28th, Wednesday, we'll have our second in-person event for the Good Lounge. Tamara Jones, a therapist and counselor, will talk us through some tips around holiday and seasonal depression. It'll be in person at Trez Wine Bar if you're local to Houston. And we will be celebrating the holiday in a fun way. So ugly sweaters, holiday themed costumes. If you decide you want to come as the Grinch, if you decide you want to keep it light like Jim Halpert in The Office and just wear a holiday name tag, whatever you like to do, we want you to show up. We'll have another fundraiser on December 28th. It's a Wednesday in person for the Good Lounge at Trez Wine Bar with Tamara Jones as our speaker. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much to Dr. Shaquinta. Thank you so much to Khaliah. So happy that you both could join us and have a good conversation about rest. If you enjoyed this, please share thegoodlounge.org with others so that we can continue to share additional content. We are here to amplify resources and tools on financial, emotional, and physical well-being through edutainment. So really, really happy that you made time to join us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Pope.
Bye, y'all.